suddenly, and with much more force than you may realize, because the energy here feels like someone went to sleep carrying one version of the connection in their mind and woke up knowing they could not stay there anymore. They have made a decision, a real one. And the reason this reading feels electric is that this does not look like a person still circling in confusion. This looks like someone whose heart crossed a line, whose mind finally caught up, and whose next instinct is no longer only to think, it is to act. The first card appearing here is the Ace of Swords. This is immediate clarity, mental breakthrough, the moment where inner fog disappears and truth stands up straight. So this person may have had a realization. The Ace of Swords says they saw something clearly, what they feel, what they want, what they can no longer keep postponing. And once that kind of clarity enters, it changes the whole emotional atmosphere. Because a heart can hesitate, but once the truth lands cleanly, hesitation starts losing power. The next card appearing here is Judgment. Judgment is the awakening card. The I know now card, the moment a person understands that continuing in the old pattern is no longer possible. So if this person has been quiet, delayed, uncertain, emotionally circling instead of moving, Judgment says that stage may have ended. They may have realized that the bond matters more than they admitted, that your place in their heart is not fading, that if they keep standing still, they may lose the chance to do something real with what they feel. The next card appearing here is the Knight of Wands. Because the Knight of Wands does not stay frozen after a realization like this, he moves fast, boldly, with heat behind the action. So the card suggests that once this person made the decision internally, a new kind of urgency may have started rising in them. Not reckless in a careless way, but intense in a way that says, I cannot just sit here with this anymore. That could mean messaging, calling, showing up differently, breaking silence, shifting tone. Something active. The next card appearing here is the Two of Cups, and this tells us why the decision carries so much force. This is not random emotion. The Two of Cups is real emotional recognition. It is the feeling that another person matters, and that the connection itself is alive enough to deserve response. So whatever they realized overnight, it likely had to do with the truth of this bond, that it is real, that it still matters, that you still matter. And once someone admits that fully to themselves, action often stops feeling optional. The next card appearing here is the Eight of Wands, fast communication. Sudden movement energy that no longer wants delay. The Eight of Wands often appears when something that has been building quietly suddenly starts moving all at once. So if this person has been holding things in, the reading suggests the pressure may now be turning into momentum, because once the heart decides, the waiting starts feeling unbearable. The next card appearing here is the Star. It says the action is not only driven by pressure, it is also driven by hope. Hope that the connection can still grow. Hope that reaching out is not too late. Hope that what they feel can still become something healing, open, and real between you. The Star says the decision may not only be, I need to do something. It may also be, I want to do this the right way. The final card appearing here is the Sunday. And this brings everything into full light. No more hiding behind mixed signals. No more pretending they need endless time. No more acting like the feeling is smaller than it is. The truth is bright now. They want movement. They want honesty. They want to stop holding this in silence and begin doing something real about it. So the message of this reading is clear. Overnight, they made a big decision about you, not a half decision, not a vague emotional lean. A real decision to stop standing still. A decision to stop lying to themselves about what they feel. A decision that may already be turning into action. Part of what makes this feel strong is that the shift may have surprised even them. Sometimes love builds, then one night, one memory, one moment of truth, one sudden wave of clarity changes everything. A person who can no longer pretend that waiting is harmless. A person who has moved from emotional hesitation into inner decision. And when that kind of decision happens, the outer world usually changes next. The feeling is no longer sleeping, it is rising. And when love rises this clearly, it rarely stays hidden for long. It starts reaching very, very soon toward you. And it feels like the decision they made is no longer staying in the heart as a private realization. It is beginning to turn into momentum, because there is a difference between finally knowing what you feel and deciding you are actually going to do something about it. The inner maybe is losing power. The emotional hesitation is losing ground. What remains now feels much more direct. The first card appearing here is the Chariot. This card speaks of movement with purpose, not random emotion, not impulsive confusion. Purpose. The Chariot appears when someone decides they are no longer willing to sit in emotional limbo. So if they were passive before, that passivity may now feel intolerable to them. If they were waiting for the perfect time, they may now feel that waiting has become its own kind of loss. The Chariot says their energy may be gathering behind one clear truth: I need to move. The next card appearing here is the Page of Pentacles. This tells me the action may begin in a grounded way. A message, a check-in, a practical reason to open the door. They may not burst in with a giant emotional speech at first. They may begin smaller than the feeling actually is, but that does not make the feeling small. It means they want the first step to be real, manageable, and honest. The Page of Pentacles is someone who wants to build carefully. So if they reach towards you, it may come through something simple, but underneath that simple opening, there may be a much bigger emotional decision already standing there. The next card appearing here is the Nine of Swords. Now we see the pressure around the action because even though they have made the decision, they are still feeling the weight of it. They may be thinking a lot, rehearsing, wondering how you will respond, wondering if they waited too long, wondering whether one message can really shift the energy after all this silence. The Nine of Swords says the mind may still be noisy, but the heart is no longer asleep, and that matters. Because once the heart wakes up, this strongly overthinking usually does not stop the action forever. It only delays it. The next card appearing here is the Ace of Wands. This is the spark, the ignition, the sudden push that says, enough, do it. So whatever changed overnight, it may not have been a soft realization only. It may have felt like a surge, a rush of truth, a burst of emotional clarity that made staying inactive feel almost impossible. That direction looks like you. The next card appearing here is the Lovers. This is why the shift feels so serious, because the action is not only about contact, it is about the bond. The Lovers says the decision they made may be rooted in the realization that this connection is too meaningful to keep treating casually, too alive to neglect, too emotionally important to let drift without response. So if they are moving now, they may be moving because your place in their heart has become undeniable. The next card appearing here is the Wheel of Fortune. This card says the situation is turning. The emotional pattern that has existed up to this point may be changing rapidly. So the cycle of silence, hesitation, or emotional delay may now be closing, and the cycle of action, of movement, of actual change may be starting. The final card appearing here is the Sunday. This is beautiful because it says the truth is now brighter than the fear, brighter than the hesitation, brighter than the old excuses. The Sunday says they may be feeling a strong desire to be open now, clear, direct, real. So the message of this part is very clear. They did not only think about you overnight, they decided something, and that decision may already be pulling them into action. There is one more layer here too. Part of what may be pushing them so strongly now is the realization that some opportunities do not wait forever for people to become emotionally brave. That truth can hit hard when love becomes clear, because once a person realizes what matters, they also realize what is at risk if they keep doing nothing. That may be what woke them up, not only love, but urgency. The sense that your place in their life deserves motion, not more delay. The sense that the connection deserves honesty, not more passive longing. The sense that if they really mean what they feel, they have to let that meaning become visible somehow. And once a heart reaches that point, the energy changes fast. So yes, this part of the reading says movement is close, not because everything feels easy, not because every fear is gone, but because the truth inside them has become stronger than the silence around them. And when that happens, action usually follows, sooner than expected, and more clearly than before. The heart is done waiting in shadows now. It wants your answer back. soon. And it feels like the decision inside them is now testing the edges of the real world, because once someone reaches inner clarity, the next challenge is no longer what do I feel? It becomes what am I going to do with it? The first card appearing here is the Two of Wands. This card says they are standing at the threshold now. One version of them still wants to stay where things have been quiet, controlled, unspoken, but another version is already reaching beyond that old emotional position. The Two of Wands is the card of looking ahead, choosing direction, and realizing that the future cannot open if a person keeps gripping the safety of delay. So this person may be looking at the connection differently now, not as something to think about forever, not as something to hold in private indefinitely, but as something that may require a real step. The next card appearing here is the King of Swords. Now the energy becomes sharper because this card says their thoughts are not drifting anymore. They may be getting very clear, very intentional, very serious about how they want to approach you. The King of Swords does not like emotional fog once the truth becomes obvious. He wants clarity, he wants honesty, he wants a direct line between inner knowing and outward action. So if they have been scattered before, that may be changing. They may now be thinking carefully about timing, wording, tone, and what kind of action would actually create movement instead of more confusion. The next card appearing here is the Eight of Pentacles. This tells me they may be working on the approach more than you realize, revising, rehearsing, returning to the idea again and again. The Eight of Pentacles is effort, repeated attention, a person trying to get something right because it matters enough not to be treated carelessly. So even if you have not yet seen the action, the cards say inner preparation is active, and that matters because some people act fast from impulse. Others prepare deeply before they move. This feels like the second kind. The next card appearing here is the Knight of Cups. And here the emotional current becomes unmistakable. Because whatever strategy they are forming, it is still being carried by the heart. The Knight of Cups wants sincerity. It wants contact that means something. It wants to move toward the person it cannot stop feeling. So if they reach out, the energy behind it may be much more emotional than the surface message first reveals. A simple line could carry a lot, a small opening could contain a much bigger truth. The next card appearing here is the Five of Cups. This says regret may still be part of what pushes them now. They may be looking at how long they waited, how much time passed, how much emotion sat in silence, and realizing that delay has a cost. The Five of Cups is the ache of seeing what could slip away if a person keeps standing still too long. That ache can become a motivator, because once regret starts whispering loudly enough, movement begins to feel necessary. The next card appearing here is the Ace of Swords. This is the breakthrough again, the card of final mental truth, the card of no more lying to yourself. The card that says, I know what this is now, and I cannot keep acting like I do not. So this person may be reaching a point where their own clarity is forcing a choice. Say something, do something, or keep living with the pressure of knowing and not acting. The final card appearing here is the Eight of Wands, and this says the action may come faster than expected once it starts. The waiting may have been long, but the release of it could happen quickly. A message, a conversation, a shift in energy that suddenly makes it obvious they are not where they were before. So the message of this part is very clear. The decision they made overnight may now be turning into real preparation for action, not vague emotion, not dreamy hope preparation. They may be thinking carefully, feeling intensely, and getting closer to the point where the truth inside them no longer wants rehearsal. It wants reality. There is one more layer here too. Part of what may be making this feel so urgent is that their heart now understands something their mind kept postponing before. Love does not stay untouched by delay. It either deepens into courage, or it starts aching under the weight of inaction. This person may be feeling that ache now, not because the love disappeared, but because it has become strong enough to demand movement. And once love begins demanding movement, very little stays the same for long. The waiting may still be visible on the outside, yes, but inside, the current has changed. It is no longer circling only for comfort. It is circling for release, and release in this reading looks much like reaching toward you. Last, a more decisive current enters here. And this part feels like the moment where the inner decision starts pressing hard against the outer world. Because after clarity comes tension, and after tension comes choice. Not the dreamy kind, the real kind. The first card appearing here is the Chariot. This card says they are no longer emotionally parked where they were before. Something in them wants motion now. Direction forward energy. The Chariot appears when a person gets tired of carrying feeling without allowing life to move with it. So if they have spent too much time thinking, circling, waiting, or trying to control the timing, that may be changing fast. The Chariot is the card that says, I have to do something, and that something feels connected to you. The next card appearing here is the Page of Pentacles. This is important because it says the action may begin in a simple, grounded form, not necessarily a huge declaration right away. It could be a message, a check-in, a practical reason to reopen the conversation, a small doorway, but the Page of Pentacles is never empty. What looks small on the outside may carry much more intention underneath it. So if they come in gently, do not assume the feeling is gentle only. The next card appearing here is the High Priestess. Now we see the layer they are still not showing fully. Even with all this motion building inside them, there are still emotions they have not spoken, desires they have not exposed, fears they have not named. The High Priestess says they may still be keeping a sacred part of this connection private while they figure out how to move correctly. This is not dishonesty. It is depth, and depth often moves quietly until it is ready to reveal itself. The next card appearing here is the Lovers. This card says the decision is not only about contact, it is about the bond itself, about what this connection means. About the truth that your place in their heart is not casual enough to keep postponing. The Lovers is not passive energy. It is recognition turning into choice. It is the heart saying, this matters too much to leave floating. So if they are taking action now, it may be because the feeling has become too meaningful to ignore any longer. The next card appearing here is the Nine of Wands. This tells me they are still carrying nerves, still bracing a little, still protecting themselves while preparing to move. The Nine of Wands says they may have courage rising, but it is courage with vulnerability underneath it. They may worry about how you will receive them. They may worry about whether too much time has passed. They may worry about how exposed they will feel once the silence breaks. But fear is no longer stopping the movement completely. It is only making the movement tremble. The next card appearing here is the Ace of Wands. This changes the atmosphere powerfully because the Ace of Wands is ignition, impulse, the fire that says now. So this person may be feeling a strong push to stop over managing the situation and simply begin. The thought may keep returning with more heat, more urgency, more certainty, and once that spark reaches a certain point, waiting starts feeling worse than acting. That is why the energy here feels so alive. The next card appearing here is the Sunday. And this is beautiful because it says that underneath the nerves, underneath the planning, underneath the tension, there is genuine joy in what they are imagining. The thought of movement towards you does not only create fear, it also creates relief, excitement, the feeling that truth may finally be allowed into the open. The Sunday says they may already sense that being honest will feel lighter than hiding. The final card appearing here is the Wheel of Fortune. This is the turning point. The old emotional pattern may be ending now, the waiting pattern, the maybe later pattern, the quiet longing without visible action pattern, and something new is beginning movement change. A shift that may alter the entire rhythm between you. So the message of this part becomes very clear. The decision they made did not stay in thought. It is becoming momentum, not because every fear is gone, not because every answer is guaranteed, but because the truth has become stronger than postponement. There is one more layer here too. Part of why the energy feels so urgent is that they may sense time differently now. What they once thought could be delayed without consequence may no longer feel safe to delay. When the heart gets honest enough, it starts recognizing the cost of waiting, and that cost may now feel too heavy to keep carrying. That is why this part feels alive, because they are no longer only hoping something changes. They may be preparing to be the one who changes it. And once a person reaches that point internally, their outer world usually follows very clearly, very soon now. And this part feels like the moment where the decision inside them begins turning into emotional commitment, not just movement, not just urgency commitment. Because once a person stops asking, "What do I feel?" and starts asking, "What am I ready to do?" the whole energy changes. It becomes less scattered, less hesitant, more real. The first card appearing here is the King of Pentacles. This card says they are thinking seriously now, not only romantically, not only emotionally seriously. The King of Pentacles wants stability, consistency, and something strong enough to hold a future. So if they made a big decision about you overnight, this card suggests they may already be thinking about what comes after the first message, after the first action, after the first opening. They may not only want contact, they may want direction. The next card appearing here is the Two of Cups. And this is why the decision feels so powerful, because the bond itself still feels alive to them, mutual in spirit. Significant, worth responding to. The Two of Cups is what happens when a person can no longer reduce a connection to just thoughts or just timing. It becomes clear that another heart matters here, that your energy still carries meaning, that what is between you deserves more than passive longing. The next card appearing here is the Eight of Pentacles. This card says they may be working on the next step more than you realize, thinking carefully, revising the approach, wanting to make the action count instead of rushing into something careless. So even if they have not appeared yet, the inner effort is very real. The Eight of Pentacles shows focus, repetition, the desire to do something properly because it matters. That means the action may not be random when it comes. It may be considered. The next card appearing here is the Ace of Cups. Now the emotional truth rises again, because whatever practical movement is building, it is still being powered by real feeling. The Ace of Cups is the overflowing heart, the feeling becoming too full to keep sitting quietly inside. So if they are moving now, it is not only because they had a thought. It is because emotion reached a level where staying still no longer felt honest. The next card appearing here is the Emperor. This is important because it says control is changing form. Before, they may have tried to control emotion by delaying, avoiding, or staying distant. But the Emperor here feels healthier. It feels like someone deciding to take responsibility for what they feel. To stand up, to act with intention, to stop letting uncertainty decide the pace of the connection, that is a very different kind of control. That is mature control. The next card appearing here is the Knight of Wands, and this adds heat, because even with all this seriousness, there is still urgency, a fire, a restless desire to close the gap and stop sitting in emotional suspense. The Knight of Wands does not want endless waiting once the heart has chosen direction. So they may feel moments of sudden boldness now, sudden urges to send, say, appear, or break the silence faster than even they expected. The final card appearing here is the Star, and this is beautiful because it says the movement is not only driven by pressure, it is also driven by hope. Hope that reaching out can change something. Hope that honesty can reopen something. Hope that what they feel has not come alive this strongly for no reason. So the message of this part becomes very clear. The decision they made is not sitting quietly inside them anymore. It is becoming commitment. Focus, preparation, action. There is one more layer here too. Part of what may be making this shift feel so strong is that they are no longer imagining you as a possibility floating somewhere in the distance. They may be starting to imagine you as someone real in their future, someone their life may need to move toward instead of merely think about. And when love becomes that real in the heart, a person often stops asking for signs and starts becoming the sign. That is the energy here, not passive love, not sleepy love. Love getting ready to stand up, and once it stands up, it rarely wants to sit back down again. Very soon now, the silence may start changing shape, because the person who decided overnight may be getting closer to showing you exactly what that decision means. They may still feel nerves. Yes, they may still pause before acting. Yes, but the difference now is that the pause no longer feels empty. It feels loaded, intentional, on the verge of becoming visible, because once the heart and the will begin moving in the same direction, delay loses its old comfort. It starts feeling like resistance to something already chosen. And that is why this energy feels so close. Not to fantasy, to movement, not to wishing. Everything gathers here, and the final truth of this reading feels impossible to ignore. Something changed overnight, not only emotionally decisively. This person may have crossed a line inside themselves, the line between thinking about it and I cannot stay still anymore. The first card appearing here is the Ace of Swords. This card says the truth has become sharp, now clean, undeniable. No more hiding behind delay. No more pretending they need endless time to understand what they feel. The Ace of Swords is the moment a person sees clearly. And once they see clearly, staying passive starts feeling dishonest. So whatever this person realized overnight, it may have been simple but powerful. You matter too much to keep waiting in silence. This connection matters too much to keep half held, and their own heart matters too much to keep ignored. The next card appearing here is the Chariot. This is movement, will decision turning into action. The Chariot does not sit forever inside inner clarity. It takes the clarity and goes somewhere with it. So this person may now feel pulled to close the distance, not emotionally only, but practically a message, a call, a shift in tone, an actual move that shows you something has changed. The next card appearing here is the Lovers, and this is why the movement feels so strong, because the choice underneath it is not random. The Lovers is the card of meaningful recognition. The card that says, this is not a small bond. The card that says, I know where my heart keeps returning. So if they are taking action now, it may be because love stopped feeling optional to ignore. It started feeling necessary to honor. The next card appearing here is the Eight of Wands. This confirms speed, communication. Fast movement after a period of delay. The Eight of Wands often appears when something that has been building privately suddenly begins moving all at once. So the action here may not feel slow once it starts. It may arrive more quickly than expected because the emotional pressure behind it has already been gathering for a while. The next card appearing here is the King of Cups. This is very important because it says the action is not only impulsive, there are real feelings underneath it, deep ones, mature ones, the kind that do not vanish just because fear tried to slow them down. The King of Cups says this person may now be acting because they can no longer deny the depth of what they feel for you. Not just attraction, not just curiosity. Emotion with weight. The next card appearing here is the Sunday. And this is beautiful because the Sunday says the truth may actually feel relieving to them now. Relieving to stop holding it in, relieving to stop circling, relieving to let the connection move toward openness instead of staying trapped in private tension. So the decision may not only feel urgent, it may feel freeing. The final card appearing here is Judgment. This is the awakening made final. The card of no return. The card of I know now. The card of a person hearing the truth of their own heart so loudly, they can no longer pretend not to hear it. So the message of this final part is very clear. Overnight, they made a really big decision about you, not a half step. Not a vague emotional lean, a decision to stop sitting in hesitation, a decision to stop leaving the connection in suspended feeling, a decision to take what has been growing inside and begin turning it into real action. There is one more layer here too. Part of what may have changed so suddenly is that they realized waiting was no longer protecting anything. Waiting was only keeping the truth trapped. And once a person understands that delay is not wisdom anymore, but fear, something powerful happens. They choose. That is the energy here. Choice becoming motion, love becoming courage, inner truth becoming visible through action. So if you have felt a shift, if you have sensed that something is happening behind the scenes, the cards say you may be right because the heart is no longer sleeping on this. It is awake, it is decided, and it may be moving towards you much sooner than it looked like from the outside. Because sometimes a decision does not become real the moment it is felt. It becomes real the moment a person understands they are tired of resisting it. And this person may be there now, no more waiting for a perfect sign, no more hoping the feeling will fade on its own. No more calling something complicated when the heart has already chosen its direction. That is why the energy feels so alive here. The truth did not weaken overnight, it clarified very soon. Thank you so much for watching and for sharing this reading with me. If this message found you at the right moment, please like, share, and subscribe. Take gentle care of your heart, and I will see you in the next reading. This person may have crossed a line inside themselves, the line between thinking about it and I cannot stay still anymore. The first card appearing here is the Ace of Swords.